Harihi Om Gajananam Bhudaganadisevidam Kavitthajambho Balasarabakshitham Umasudham Sogha Vinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam Om Tat Ganeshaya Arpanamustu. Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalarspatikatrudhim Adharam Sarvavidyanam Ayagrivam Yasyat Varada Vakradyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Tisatatam Vishwashremam Tamashvaye Gurud Brahma Gurud Vishnu Gurud Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Bisaje Bhavaroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurthaye Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Saishwararpanamustu. Ramanuja Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathaya Vande Vedanta Deshikam Lakshmi Nada Samaramba Nada Yamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Apadhamapahataram Dhatharam Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shriramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sithayam Pataye Namaha Om Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Varanane Rama Nama Varanane Nama Ithi Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramaya Phanamastu. Astika Swaswagatam Namo Namaha. Welcome to the 8th Kanta, the ultimate or the book of finality, Uttara Kanda, right? So far we've looked at the 7 kantas, right? We started with, of course, Bala Kanda, then Ayodhya Kanda, Naranya Kanda, then Kishkinda Kanda, then Yuddha Kanda, and today we're finishing the 7th book, which is Uttara Kanda, called the book of finality or book of answers. And it has 111 chapters, right, to its name. This is like the final yardstick of the journey of Rama in his avatar as Rama, right? So we'll start with the question of why did Vishnu take the 7th avatar, right? Of course, we have the Mahavakya. Whenever there's a suppression of righteousness, right, and unrighteousness is overwhelmingly ruling Bhuloka, Lord will come down in one form or another to re-establish dharma or righteousness. So we've heard that many times, that yada yada hi dharmasya. Rama avatar had been actually realized at the end of the Yuddha, Yuddha Kandam. Rama avatar had been realized because the purpose for which Rama took the birth of Rama, or Vishnu took the incarnation of Rama, had been realized with the killing of Ravana. So really and truly, from an analytical perspective, right? If you evaluate the series and the structure of the entire Ramayana, there was really, beyond this point, there was really no need, nor was there necessity for Rama to remain and rule as a normal king, because that goes over and beyond the call of duty, which was the duty to re-establish dharma, which he had done by killing Ravana, putting Vibhishana there in his place. Then he's come. Now he's being crowned as the king of Koshala. Therein ends Ramayana, actually. In fact, right, I can tell you with no with no degree of uncertainty, I can tell you very clearly, Valmiki Maharishi actually ends the Ramayana here. The Yuddha Kandam, right? Valmiki actually ends his writing of the Ramayana with the Yuddha Kandam by saying Rama then came back to Ayodhya, was instated as king of Koshala, and he ruled for many, many years with full dharma, and everybody was happy, and that he ends it like that. Right? Then, of course, subsequently he goes back to Vaikundha and regains his primal position as Vishnu. Right? Also, there are several variations of the Uttara Kanda. Right? If you look at all the other kandas that precede Uttara Kanda, right? Whether it is the Bala Kanda or Ayodhya Kanda, Aranya Kanda, Kishkinda Kanda, Yuddha Kanda, they are the same. But Uttara Kanda, there are many variations, which begs the question, was this really a part of the original Ramayana? To which I would say no, right? Because the later part has been written, rewritten, and again rewritten. Of course, in modern times, many people have written it, in the 19th century and certainly in the 20th century, all with a modern twist to cater for the contemporary tongue. But if you look at it originally, right, the original writings of Valmiki, and research shows that, and I've seen evidence of that, in my research, the Srimad Ramayana ends, Valmiki's Srimad Ramayana ends with Rama's coronation as king of Koshala. And then Valmiki, in the concluding chapter of the Yuddha Kanda, says that having enjoyed the kingship for 10,000 years at that time, right? 10,000 years. And then having performed so many yajnas, Rama then decided to merge. And therein was the end of the Ramayana. Was also briefly described in that part of the Yuddha Kanda where Valmiki says everybody in the kingdom of Koshala was very happy under the reigns of Sri Rama, right? Now, the reason I say that is wherever you find these writings, right? Whenever you find these writings, you will always see that they end with something called Phalashruti, right? This is the end, the tail end, right? All the shlokas have a Phalashruti, right? Just like at the Dhyana shloka, which is the beginning, towards the end, they have something called Phalashruti. Phala means the fruits. Shruti means the saying, right? So the fruits of saying or reading or hearing this. So all mantras, stotras, shlokas, everything will have a Phalashruti at the end. Like you listen to Lingashtakam, isn't it? The last line is the Phalashruti. Lingashtakam idam punyam yappate shiva sannithau shivalogam avapnote shivena sahamodati. That is the Phalashruti. That marks the end. That actually tells you, if you recite this, what is the benefit to you, right? And that only comes in the end as the last, closure. So if, for those of you who are looking for evidence, let me give you one now. If you go to the Yuddha Kanda, and provided you have the original unadulterated version of Valmiki Ramayana, right? If you look at the Yuddha Kanda, look at the 128th Sarga, right? Verses 107 to 108. And again, towards the end, 112 to 116. You will see that he actually lists down the Phalashruti of reading or listening to the Ramayana. That the person is delivered from all misfortune, gets longevity, all obstacles are removed, enjoys a prosperous and peaceful life. That is stated in the Yuddha Kanda, 128th Sarga, verses 107, 108, 112, 116. Please check it out, right? Provided you have the original, untainted, unaberrated version of the Valmiki Ramayana. That you find it there. Because I said subsequently, everything has been condensed, recondensed, then enhanced, then re-enhanced. All those things happen. So all the Hindu Parayana texts will incorporate by tradition a Falashruti, which marks the end of reading or listening to a sacred text or chant. That is one of the key evidence and research that substantiates the fact that the Uttara Kanda was what we call, an addendum or an addition at a later stage, subsequently, right? That's why it is referred to as a prakshipta. A prakshipta means a later addition. Now, why I say a later addition? Because there are several things that lend support to this, right? Uttara Kanda is accepted as a prakshipta or later addition. And evidence points to Tulsidas as the key contributor to this end, right? I mean, there are many differing versions of the Uttara Kanda. There's not one version, like, all the versions I've been telling you. Uttara Kanda has several versions, and I'll draw the inconsistencies as I take you through it, right? For example, if you look at all the other kandas, up to Yuddha Kanda, right? With the exception of Uttara Kanda, the style of writing, the prose, the language, the flow, right? The ambience, the setting, everything was in one language. Ekashruti. Like that, if you take the Uttara Kanda, it has got different variations written in different times by different people to cater for the contemporary society at that point in time. So naturally that changes, as time goes by. I mean, we are talking from Valmiki's time, we are talking the 20th century. So you can imagine the changes that have swept through. I'm not just talking about the religious or spiritual changes. I'm talking about the political changes. I'm talking about the economic changes. I'm talking about social cultural changes. I'm talking about the demographics. Right? So when you read different versions, read with an open mind and certainly with an open eye, thinking this was written in 1942. Ramayana happened when? So naturally, the person who wrote it was not present at that time, unlike Valmiki, who was right there, smack in the middle of it. Right? So this person has either listened to someone or heard from someone or read from someone, and then he has compiled this. So read it with an open mind, right? Because only what you decide goes into your mind. What you block doesn't go in. So make sure you put the right things inside. Also, you must understand over the period of time, right, the passing of time, enormous changes that have occurred, not just in India as a land, but within Hinduism itself, right, and its surrounding polity in terms of the centuries that has passed, right, the time, when the thing first happened to when it was composed by Valmiki to after that, several variations that is present. So when you read it, it is important that you read and receive that information, right? And view it as a historical evolution and see the changes that have made, right? Sometimes history is presented in different ways to convey a different types of message. So that's the message behind the different variations or interpretations of the Uttara Kanda. So now let's go to the Uttara Kanda, right? What's the significance of Uttara Kanda? Uttara Kanda has got several significances, right? Of course, the most important one is Sita's banishment. Remember, they all come back, Rama is crowned as king and everybody is happy, and the state of dharma is now, reverberating in Ayodhya for a while, right? Sita's banishment. This obviously, if you go back to Vishnu Purana, it is a curse by Maharishi Bhrigu on Lord Vishnu, right? And that's a different story. But, to cut a long story short, Rishi Bhrigu cursed Vishnu that Vishnu will be separated from Lakshmi in his next birth, in his next incarnation. And of course, the next incarnation was going to be Rama. And, things are, falling into place where, they are together, but soon they're going to be separated. And they were already separated once. And then, Rama went and rescued Sita and came back home. They're going to be set. Then, of course, the birth of Lava and Kusa at the Valmiki Ashrama. Lava and Kusa, son of Rama, right? Sons of Rama. Then the Ashwamedha Yajna that was going to be done by Rama, and the tradition of, setting free a horse, and that horse roams and then returns back. And then wherever the horse goes, that particular place is annexed to the kingdom of the king from where the horse has been set off, right? Anyway, that was the tradition in those days. Only after that, the Ashwamedha Yajna is commenced. So when the horse went to Valmiki Ashrama, Lava and Kusa captured it. And then, of course, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna, all the soldiers go after the horse, and they, a little, face-to-face confrontation happens. Lava and Kusa captures them all, and then Rama goes, faces Lava and Kusa. Valmiki enters the scene, and Valmiki puts a stop to that, introduces who is who and all of that. Remember, until that point, they don't know who is who, right? The boys don't know who their father is. The father and his brothers don't know who the boys are, right? Now, Sita witnesses the acceptance of Lava and Kusa by Rama. That's also significant here. And then, of course, Rama's plan was to take them all back, but Sita had different plans. She said, her sankalpa had been achieved, therefore it's time for her to go. She prays to her mother, Bhumi Devi. Bhumi Devi comes and accepts her in open arms. And I'll tell you the different variations, the different writings of the Uttara Kanda. When I'm talking now, I'm just telling you the main significance. Of course, Rama becomes distraught after that. He takes Lava and Kusa back, trains them, rules for many years. And then, of course, Kaladevan, the god of time, visits Rama and says, hey, it's time for you to come back. This is not what you're supposed to be doing, right? Then, of course, they talk in Rama's palace, and how Lakshmana gets roped into being standing guard at the entrance of the door, and he was given specific instructions not to let anyone in, right? By Kaladevan. He says, I want you to put someone most trustworthy, that no one should enter the room under any circumstance until I finish talking to you and until I leave, right? So who else does Rama trust more than Lakshmana, right? So he calls Lakshmana, puts him there. At the time Lakshmana is guarding, Bhrigu comes, right? And of course, who can stop? Bhrigu is known as the ferocious rishi who, gives sharp, at the slightest provocation, he will release, the sharp. Now, he couldn't stop Bhrigu from entering. Bhrigu enters, and then, of course, Kaladevan says, Rama, you gave me a word. What are you going to do? Of course, as a king, the king always can change the punishment, but punishment must be given. So he says, I'm not going to sentence you to death. I banish you from my kingdom. The karma will come back. So Lakshmana was banished from the kingdom. I'll tell you, when I talk about this later, I'll tell you how karma hits Lakshmana back. Then Lakshmana goes, and of course he can't bear the pangs of separation, so he decides to end his life. And then Rama, Bharata, and Shatrugna's subsequent departure, and then the complete ending at the river Sarayu, where it all began, right? So Ramarajya, that being the main significance, let me now go into, right, Uttara Kanda. Right? Ramarajya rules the kingdom justly, fairly, everybody is happy, so on and so forth. The monkeys that came from Kishkinda, stayed for a couple of months. They were very happy, eating and feasting away. And then time came when Hanuman said, time for you guys to go, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, so go back. So they all came to take blessings from Rama, Rama embraced each and every one of them, right? And then he said, go in peace, give them gifts. But when it came to Hanuman, Hanuman said, I will always be here with you to serve you and to sing your praises even after you. That's why he's got, right, the boon of Chiranjeevi, Rama Bhakta, Ramadasa, Ramatudha, Hanumanta, right? So he's still around, very much so, right? Whether you believe or I believe or not, Hanuman is around, right? If your faith is as strong as his faith was in Rama, then just like he realized Rama with every beat of his heart and with every hair on his body vibrating into the name of Ram, in the same way he realized Ram, you will realize Hanuman. But your bhakti must vibrate in the same way like the bhakti of Ram vibrated in Hanuman. I give you my word. If that can happen, you can do that, then Hanuman will show. You don't have to go looking for Hanuman. This is Hanuman's Mahavakya, right? If you read the Panchamukha Kavya, right, he tells very clearly, those who can show me my faith in Rama, I will show myself to them. Panchamukha Kavya. Hanuman clearly says, you don't have to come looking for me because Ram is so alive in you, I will come to you. That is a Mahavakya of Hanuman. Anyway, so Rama blesses him. Now here, Rama takes a jewel that he is wearing, the same pearl necklace, or similar to one that Sita was wearing. Remember, I spoke to you last week about Hanuman Hridaya Pradishtavanaha, where he opens up his heart and shows everybody that Rama is there, right? So Rama takes and puts it on Hanuman, and Hanuman just embraces it like that. Now, once, when I was giving a talk in Gita Bhavan, in another state, someone asked me, he said, how come Hanuman kept this one, but when Sita gave him her pearl necklace, he just threw it to bits and pieces? This is a very good question. The answer is very simple, right? He's looking for Rama in the pearl necklaces, right? When someone other than Rama gives it, of course he will look for evidence. But if Rama himself gives it, and that thing was on Rama, do you not think those pearl necklaces will be vibrating with the vibrations of Ram? And the moment Hanuman receives it, that vibrations, he instantly connects to that vibration. So he puts it and he embraces it because he can feel that vibration. Like vibration attracts each other, like that. So that is why he just embraced it and he never took it off. That's why in some pictures of Hanuman, I mean, the more educated artists, let's put it that way, right? They will always put a white pearl necklace around his neck. Even though he's in a Yoga Nidra position, that means he's in a position of meditation, because that reflects this gift that Ram gave, because Hanuman said he will do Yuga Seva. Anyway, that's fine. So they all came, the monkeys came, and the monkeys took leave. So you see, just like the monkeys entered the scene, this Uttara Kanda marks the exit of all the monkeys. So all the people who played a role up to that point were with Rama. Now one by one is leaving. The scene. We've seen the prologue, we've seen the dialogue. Now this is the epilogue, right? So one by one they are leaving. Now, next, banishment of Sita, ordeal of Sita. So I want you to pay very close attention, right? Because some of the questions you may have in your mind may be resolved by listening to this fact. So one day, everybody was happy. Rama came to know from his ministers that his subjects, there was a little uneasiness or, restlessness going on, particularly within the Dobi community, particularly with one Dobi man. Of course, many of you would have heard the name of Bhadra, but I'm not totally interested in Bhadra at all, right? Bhadra is not the main focus here. If you want a lesson from Bhadra, it means never listen to a third party. He'll cause problems in your house. That is the message, right? Even though you may be the king. Oh, see, Rama heard. Rama reacted. The reason why Rama reacted is different, I'll tell you, right? Rama did not listen to the Dobi man and then told his wife to go, or told his wife to do Agni Pariksha, right? Rama didn't do that. Rama had to do what the dharma of the king dictated him to do. Okay, whether any other king in his position would have done that, that's a different question. But Rama, being Dharma Purushottama, did the right thing, act dharmically. So he heard that the people were happy that it killed Ravana and rescued Sita and brought back, but they were talking. This is backbiting and all this gossiping, right? So if you fall prey to gossip and backbiting, your life will be the one that's destroyed, because the people who talk will continue to talk, but your life is destroyed because you listened and you did what you're not supposed to do. So anyway, they said that, how could the king bring back Mother Sita who was living in Ravana's palace for more than a year? It was actually about a year, right? So this news spread, and there was some, some uneasiness among the subjects. And this created uneasiness in the kingdom, in the ruling king's, certainly in the ruling king's quarters, right? And of course, Rama as king, whenever there's some trouble facing the subjects, he as a king has a duty to act on that. So he did act. But what he did not do, contrary to what you may read elsewhere, right? Rama did not ask Sita to do Agni Pariksha again. And if anybody says different, I invite you to prove it to me, right? This is what I mean by reading different versions, right? You get confused. Rama did not ask Sita to do Agni Pariksha again, right? Of course, this is what the Dobby man, in his limited capacity to think laterally, to think dharmically, his capacity was, oh, ask her to do Agni Pariksha. That does not mean Rama did it. The first one, remember I said the eyes spoke and Sita told Lakshmana, prepare the fire, I'm going in, knowing that Agni Deva is protecting her. You see, when you are truthful, you don't fear anything. Sita was truthful. So he said, what fire? Fire cannot hurt me. The same thing Draupadi did, right? So, and Rama, of course, knew that. If Rama does not know and understand Sita, who else can? Who else will? Who else does? So that's a separate matter, right? If you want to look at Sita, you look at it from the eyes of Rama. If you want to look at Rama, look at him from the eyes of Sita. Not from your eyes, not from my eyes, not from anybody else's eyes. That is all I ask of you, right? But to look at it from the eyes of Rama, you must be Rama. To look at Rama from the eyes of Sita, you must be Sita. So unless you are like Rama, like Sita, don't go there, right? Don't go there. So Rama calls Lakshmana, he speaks to Vasishtha, and Vasishtha says, I cannot tell you what to do. You are the king, right? As your guru, I'll say exercise discretion, exercise discrimination, exercise viveka, and give the right vak. Remember I said vichara, viveka, vak. Rama calls Lakshmana and says, take Sita and go into the forest and leave her at the end of the forest and come back. Lakshmana at first refused. He says, no, but I can't do that. And Rama says, I am not telling you as Rama. I am telling you as Maharaja Rama. You see the brothers, how they're conversing. Huh? I'm not telling you as your brother for you to say no to me. I am telling you as the king, because the king's word is never refused, is only obeyed, complied with. And Lakshmana takes Sita. Lakshmana takes Sita out of Ayodhya. Banish means out of the kingdom, no? Takes her and leaves her out in the forest and says, I'm just going to go and look for something, because he can't tell her he's leaving her. So he says, I'm going to go and look for some fruits to bring for you. And he comes back. He does look for some fruits in order to ensure that what he says does not become a lie. You see the extent people go through those days, right? Not to tell a lie. Because even if they said something by mistake, they go and do it in order to prove that it's not meant to be a lie. But people in these days, Kali Yuga, they go to great lengths to lie. Right? That is the difference. Now, then of course, Sita is lost, waiting. Then she faints in desperation, right? She's so tired, she faints. And of course, Valmiki's ashrama is nearby. He finds. Remember, I told you, when the right time comes, the right help will come at the right moment. You don't have to worry about it. The moment you worry and you try to make things happen so that things, don't go out of hand, that's when you're let down, because you have tried to take over and do things on your own. When the Mahavakya says, live, let go, I will come and help you. Let go, let God, finish, right? Now, he came back, Lakshmana came back. Rama, of course, was very sad. Lakshmana was, of course, very sad. Then he said, I'm not talking to you as your subject, I'm talking to you as a brother. how could you do this? You already separated from her once, you know. He says, sometimes public interest must prevail over private rights. This is Rama talking as king. How many of us can do that? Today, we read all kinds of variations and we say, what kind of a man was Rama? What kind? Oh, come on. How many of us will put public interest, other people's interest, over our own interest today? So why we talk? Why do we talk? And we can't do. Actions speak louder than words. Rama can talk. Because Rama never renegated on his dharma. You know, rest of us, question mark, isn't it? So Rama ruled his kingdom. He was separated. He was very sad, but he still did not fail in his dharma as a king. He ruled, and he ruled well. But of course, at a personal level, he was going through pangs, the pangs of separation from his beloved Sita again. You see, this is dharma, this is karma, right? It's give and take. You cannot have the cake and eat it, my friends. You remember during Kishkinda, I told you when Rama killed Vali, Vali's wife Tara came and what did she say? What did she say to Rama? She said, in the same way, you have separated myself from my husband Vali. I don't care why you killed him. What is the reason? The fact is you have separated. You are the cause of him being separated from me. In the same way, you will be separated from your wife, even though you will go and rescue her now. Karma never misses a beat, right? You think, it will come. You do, it will come. You say, it will come. Thoughts, words, actions. No escape. So this is the check and balance that God has made. By default, you cannot think anything other than me. By default, you cannot speak anything other than me. By default, you cannot do anything other than me. If you are, fine. No karma will fall on you. Any one of the three goes miss, karma will come. And you have to serve that karma, my friends. Nobody can serve it for you. Your karma is your karma. Your husband's karma is your husband's karma. Your children's karma is their karma. Right? Forget about this, this thing of going to temple and doing things so that your children's karma are reduced. Move away from that. If your neighbor's car, there's engine problem, you cannot take your car to the engine workshop. Now fix my car, please. Why? Because my neighbor's car got problem. Does that make sense? No, isn't it? Karma works in the same way. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from praying. May their burdens be lessened. May their problems be lessened. May their pain be lessened. May their pleasure be increased. May their enjoyment be increased. Nothing stopping you from sending those vibrations and prayers. But know it for a fact. You, me, anyone, the karmas that we have created. Remember what Swami says, we are the makers of the chains that bind us. If we are the makers of the chains that bind us, we are binding ourselves. Who else can come and free us? Except ourselves, right? So anyway, I told you Sita comes out there. Valmiki finds her. She's rescued. Valmiki takes her back to his hermitage and looks after her. Of course, Valmiki as the Rishi, he's got Jnana Drishti. I told you what is his farsightedness, right? He knew what has happened. He also knew that Sita was pregnant at that time. And of course, he takes her in. He says, don't worry, I'll look after you. You can stay here for as long as you like. Nobody will say anything. This is my hermitage. You can do what you want. It's a beautiful surroundings, And don't worry, your children can also be born, and I will look after them. I will take them into my Gurukula and I will teach them everything. Sita says only one thing. I do not want anybody to know where I am or the fact that I am pregnant. Or even if my children are born, after that, I don't want anyone to know. Valmiki says, okay. Of course, Valmiki knows, right? At some point, this is going to take a different turn, right? So Valmiki looks after her, and then obviously she gives birth to Lava and Kusa, 2 boys. They grew up under Valmiki's tutelage. He trains them to become, superb warriors, very wise, very balanced. And then he tells them the story of Ramayana, everything that has happened. Then the boys themselves become so, well-versed in the story of Ramayana that they start going around to different kingdoms singing this song. Of course, they do not know, because they were not told, they were not inducted, they were not instructed that, they are talking about their own parents. Rama is the king, Sita is the mother. But the way Valmiki taught them, they were skilled, poets. So they could say the Ramayana and sing the Ramayana. But coming back to Ayodhya, where Rama was, feeling not at peace with himself. He said, because of one man, Ravana had to kill so many people. Some of them are innocent, despite the fact that they were Rakshasas. Also, I'm not at peace with, my personal self. As a king, everybody is happy with me, and with, the way I'm ruling the kingdom. So I'm managing my subjects. But as a person, I'm not happy. He speaks to Agastya, who comes to visit him. Agastya Maharishi says, "Do a yajna, right? You are worried that you've killed, some people, and some of them are Brahmins. Okay, do a Brahmahati dosha yajna. Brahmahati dosha is when you perform this yajna to get rid of the sins that you accumulate because you have killed a Brahmin or Brahmins, right? Brahmahati dosha yajna. So there's a special yajna. Rama, makes preparations, and he calls everybody from near and far to attend. And, and then Agastya goes to him and says, if you want to get the full benefits of this, you have to have your wife with you. Rama is thinking, what am I going to do? One person says, send her away. One person says, bring her back. What am I going to do? So he speaks to Vashishta. Vashishta is the Kulu Guru, right? Vashishta says, it's not a problem. Right? Make a golden statue of Sita, right? How she usually is, what she wears and all that. Put her in the position where she would be sitting had she been present. You sit and you do the puja. So a golden statue of Sita was made, bedecked appropriately, and was placed beside Rama throughout the puja and proceedings. So puja was successfully completed. Purnahati was done and everything was good. And the usual tradition is when you do the Brahmahati dosha, it's usually followed by something called Ashwamedha Yajna. Remember, I explained to you, this is how the whole thing started. Remember, Dasharatha did 2 yajnas before the birth of Rama. One is Ashwamedha Yajna, the other one is the Putra Kameshti Yajna. Okay, so Agastya said, do the Ashwamedha Yajna. See, starts and ends as correlation. And it was the tradition that the Ashwamedha Yajna is commenced after the tradition of setting free a horse to roam free in the kingdom. If the horse goes to any other kingdom, then that kingdom is annexed to the kingdom that sets the horse free. So it's let, of course, some people ride behind it to make sure that, nobody captures it or kills it or whatever the case may be, right? So they all follow the horse until it goes, whenever, however long it takes, it comes back. And when it comes back, obviously, then, the Ashwamedha Yajna starts. So the horse, a beautiful white color horse was prepared, everything was done, and then it was set free with the guardian riders riding behind it. It went, it rode here, went there, went everywhere. And then finally, through some, I'll call it spiritual coincidence, it arrives at Valmiki's hermitage, and the horse rests under a tree. These 2 boys, Lava and Kusa, were on the tree, and they looked and said, wow, what a beautiful white horse. Brother, let's catch it. He said, okay, I'll jump on it. You catch and tie the string to the tree. In case it runs, then I can ride it and bring it back here. So the boys planned it that way, and they actually did capture the horse, and they tied it there, right? Of course, when the guardians came, they were no match for the boys. The boys said, please, we are sparing your life, go away and bring someone who has the caliber to face us in a fight. The boys went, and the boys waited there. They never told the mother, or they never told Sita or Valmiki Rishi what has happened, right? Because they had no reason to suspect that they just caught a horse that's running wild. Lakshmana comes the next day. He's just talking to the boys. He says, oh, okay, who are you? What are your parents? The boys said, look, why are you here? Don't waste time with this empty talk, right? If you have come for the horse, then fight us. If you win, take the horse. If you don't, leave. So Lakshmana is surprised that the boys have got so much of command and stature, even at that young age. And then he says, okay, I will fight with you, but first take me to go and meet your mother because I want to congratulate. Lakshmana doesn't know who they are, right? He's just saying, take me to your mother and father. I want to congratulate them for bringing up such fine boys. After that, I will fight you. So the boys, agreed. Said, okay, we'll take you. We don't know about our father, but we certainly will take you to our mother. This is one version I'm telling you, right? They take him to Sita. Of course, when Lakshmana meets Sita, he falls at her feet. Sita is very happy, Then Valmiki comes, explains everything, and then he actually says, this is Lava, this is Kusa, they're actually Rama's son. Okay. So then Lakshmana, tells them, I will come back tomorrow. But of course, the boys don't know that, you see. So he tells the boys, please wait here. It's already nightfall. We can't fight now. I will come back in the morning and then I'll fight you. The boys tell him, no problem. You take your time. When you're ready, you come back. Right? Sons of Rama, what do you think? Like father, like son. So Lakshmana rushes back to inform Rama. Look, this is great news. Rama is overjoyed when he hears, that Sita is well and he's got two sons, Lava and Kusa. He says, tomorrow morning we are leaving with our army. We are going to bring all three of them back. Lava, Kusa, and of course my beloved Sita. Okay. And they come with the army and all that. Lava and Kusa see this army coming. They said, look, this fellow is so scared that he went back and he brought his army. Say, you take the right flank, I'll take the left flank, right? We'll see you back here in 15 minutes. The boys are planning how to do battle. Then they came, and of course, they said, we are not here to fight, right? Rama gets off the horse and says, I want to meet Rishi Valmiki. Right? I'm here to see him. I'm Maharaja Rama from the kingdom of Ayodhya. So the boys, obviously respectful, because they've been taught that, take him to Valmiki. Valmiki is, of course, thrilled to see Rama, as is Sita. Rama is, of course, thrilled to see Sita. And of course, Valmiki calls the boys and he introduces them to Rama. This is your father. This is who you've been singing about in all these towns and cities, right? This is the man, Maharaja Rama. And your mother is actually Sita. So the boys are reunited with the father at this time. But there's another version, right, written about the same thing. This is that the boys actually go around singing about this Ramayana to everybody, of course, all the towns and cities. And one of the places they end up is in Rama's court. They don't know who Rama is. Rama doesn't know who is them, right? So Rama says, okay, I hear that, you are singing the story of this great king. So can you sing it? So when they sing it, Rama can recount everything that has happened. He says, hey, this is like my story and Sita's story. And then he tells Lakshmana, look, let's follow these boys back and see where they go. I want to know who's taught them this, right? Then, of course, they follow them back and then they discover Valmiki's ashrama, Sita, and then, there's another version that says how they met subsequently. I mean, this is my point. If you read 3 or 4 variations, they all vary in different ways, right? But none of these variations are there with Valmiki's original version, which I said ended with Uttara Kanda. So this is to give it completion. So it's referred to as the Uttara Kanda, the final book, or the finality, right? So anyway, hence, this Uttara Kanda is seen as a prashikta, like a subsequent edition. So another 2 versions, I'm going to tell you what happens when Rama invites Lava, Kusa, and Sita back to the kingdom. As he embraces Lava and Kusa and he says, Sita, come, let's go back to Ayodhya. Sita says, my sankalpa is done. My job, my duty, everything is done. My only reason for surviving and being here so long is to unite your sons back to you. Now I can know and go in peace that they are in safe hands. At that point, she calls out to her mother. You remember how Sita came? She is the daughter of Janaka. Janaka found her in. Janaka means one who has come out of the earth. So she calls her mother, Bhumi Devi, and says, my time has come. Please accept me back in the same way you gave out. Accept me back. So Bhumi Devi opens up and Sita is subsumed into earth. She disappears like that. Another version is, of course, Rama calls all of them back, and all of them happily go back with Rama to the kingdom of Ayodhya. Then, there's a question mark here, isn't it? If Rama is acting as the righteous king by banishing Sita because his subjects were not happy, doesn't it beg a belief that he's going to take them back now with two children? And the fact that, they've all grown up and all that. So again, you need to tread with caution here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, they all go back. And then again, after some time, people were saying, what is this? You bring Sita back. You say you've got two sons, but you've been separated for many, many years. How are we going to believe this? And said, all right. But Rama just hears this, right? And Sita knows that this news is spreading. So Sita comes out one day when Rama is addressing the public, from the balcony. And she says, "Oh, mother, if I am truly faithful and I am pure and have never, even in my thoughts, done any injustice to my husband, come now and take me. I am clear, pure, unblemished, absolutely faithful. If I am so, take me." Then a heavenly throws rose from within the earth, comes with 1,000 heads of Nagas. This is Adishesha, right? Comes, this is bedecked in jewels. The Naga is dancing, and the earth, as though two arms are stretching out, picks Sita up from the balcony, places her on the throne, and goes into the earth. That's another story, right? Of course, the first one I told you is more believable than the second one. But again, you be the judge. So when that happens at Valmiki's ashrama, so I'm coming back to my first version, original version, which makes a bit more sense to be. A bit more sense, a bit more logical, right? So I tend to, go with this more than the other. So Sita is gone, subsumed by Mother Earth. So Rama takes Lava and Kusa back. And then, of course, they grow into fine young man under Rama's guidance. Under, Lakshmana is there, Shatrugna is there, Bharata is there. And of course, the news of Sita's passing affected the three queens very badly, Sumitra, Kaikeyi, and they all die soon, right? They leave as well. Bharata reigned in Kaikeya. Shatrugna was made king of Madhu, while the sons of Lakshmana and Bharata founded the kingdoms of their own, right? And of course, Rama was just trying to, carry on as normal as he can. Of course, being separated from Sita, knowing that, she is no longer around, knowing that he will never again be with her in any amount of given time, that really affected him. And he was sad, but, he just carried on. You just have to press on, thinking this too shall pass, Then once someone came in the form of a heavenly angel, you can see that this person is not like a normal person, right? So Rama says, "Who might you be, sir?" And he says, "I am Kala Devan. I am the Lord of Time. I have come to meet you in order to talk to you. I need to discuss some serious matters with you. I need you to come into a room where I can talk to you without being disturbed. That means no one should be allowed to come in when I am in the room with you, right? I want you to find a trustworthy person, put them outside the room, and under no circumstances are they allowed to let anybody into the room. No one can come. And I want you to say that if they let anybody come in, they will be sentenced to death." This is the Rajavakya. So Rama thought, okay, what could be so important that, you have to put this kind of injunctions? But Rama, of course, always the man who's just, the man who's calm under circumstances. He says, okay, he calls Lakshmana, his most trusted. He says, "Lakshmana, this is the situation. This Rishi wants me to pronounce punishment of death if you fail in this duty." Lakshmana says, "I will not let you down. I have never let you down, and nor will I ever let you down, right? Don't worry. No one is going to cross me and enter." But little did Lakshmana know what is going to happen. You see, sometimes we take things into our own hands, thinking we are in control. But don't forget, man plans, God disposes, right? Is you ever so powerful, there is a powerful force higher than you, which is always working, right? Even when you are asleep, that force is working continuously. So Lakshmana is made to stand outside the conference room where Kaladeva, that's why you see in the 108 names of whether it's Vishnu or whether it's Shiva or whether it's Rama or Krishna or Hanuman or Ganesha or Murugan or one Kaladevaya Namaha is one name always, the Lord of Time, God of Time. So Lakshmana waits outside. Inside, Rama and Kaladeva are talking. Lakshmana standing guard outside. Kaladeva is telling Rama, do you actually know who you are? Remember, Rama doesn't know, normal man, right? He doesn't know who he is, what he came and all that. Then for the next 15 minutes, Kaladevan spends the time telling Rama who he really is. You are actually Mahavishnu, one of the Trinity, Trimurtis. You, in your lineage of Dashavataram, you have taken all these avatars. This is your 7th avatar. Before this, you were Parashurama. Now you've taken the birth of Rama. Even after this, you will be born as Krishna and Dwapara Yuga. Right? Your job is finished. Right? You have to go back to Vaikunda, where Sri Mahalakshmi is waiting for you. Right? You've already been here for almost 11,000 years now. Even after you kill Ravana, there's no need. Right? What you came has been achieved for. What you came for has been achieved. Now you please go back to Vaikunda and continue with what you're supposed to be doing. You are the sustainer, you are the preserver. That is your main role, right? And Kaladevan says, it's time for you to go, right? Time for you to return to heaven. Then he says, when you want to go, you say this mantra at that point in time. Just say it and things will happen. Okay? So Rama says, okay, thank you for letting me know. And then, that is one version, right? He talks. But whilst they are talking inside the room, Lakshmana is standing guard outside the room, correct? Guess who approaches him? Bhrigu Maharishi arrives. And he says, I want to see Rama. Where is he? Show me to him now. Lakshmana is at a loss. My God, who's going to stop Bhrigu Maharishi? He's feared for his rage and reputation of getting his way. No one stands in his way. Now he's in a dilemma. If he stops Bhrigu, Bhrigu will curse him. If he doesn't stop Bhrigu, he'll have to die at the hands of Rama. Now, which do you think he decided to choose? Which do you think he chose? He said, better to die at my beloved brother's hands than to face a curse from this Rishi. He lets the Rishi through. You can't stop him now. When you know a greater force is facing you, stand aside. Because the Rishi is telling me, why are you standing in my way? Move out before I curse the entire kingdom of Ramarajya. I said, oh my God. Because of me, this entire kingdom is going to be cursed. No, please. Enter. Right? The Rishi enters the room. As soon as he enters the room, Kaladevan disappears. Boom. Because he is only visible to the eyes of Rama. Right? Then Rama sees the Rishi and of course calls him and says, yes, what? And then he can hear Kaladevan talking to him, right? Do not forget your promise you made. You are supposed to sentence this person who's standing guard outside. Then Rama tells Bhrigu Maharishi what has happened and if anything can be done. Bhrigu says, no, you have given your word. Your word is your honor. Now you have to carry out the punishment. Now, how can Rama punish Lakshmana? So if you thought Rama was adharmic by sending Sita away, banishing her, now the same thing he's facing with Lakshmana. So why should you treat the Sita issue differently from the Lakshmana issue? Right? This is where you are exercising your own discrimination. No, look at it from the dharma of a king. He has given his word. Now he has to keep his word up. Now he's telling Lakshmana, as a king, I am not going to sentence you to death, but I am going to banish you from my kingdom. This is karma coming back to Lakshmana, because he took Sita on, of course, on the instructions of Rama, but he carried out, he executed the order. So the karmic action is there. So he takes Sita and leaves her, isn't it, at the end of the Ayodhya forest. Now he is facing the same thing, right? Et pavam tat bhavati, et mano tat manushyaha. By that, as you do, you beget. Now, he has to leave. Lakshmana has to leave. The Rama had no heart to sentence him to death, so he says, you have to leave. Vanish from the kingdom. You have to go outside the kingdom of Ayodhya and live somewhere. Lakshmana, from the time he was born, right, from birth, he has never been separated from, right? Remember, Lakshmana, when he was born, and they put the 4 babies, they put Bharata beside Rama. Then they put Lakshmana and then Shatrugna, right? Because Bharata was second born. Okay? Now, Lakshmana was crying as a baby because he was there. But when they changed the position and put him beside Rama, he becomes the most peaceful baby. So from birth, that connection is there. Of course, their real, original persona is, of course, Lakshmana is Adishesha and Rama is Vishnu. Vishnu and Adishesha. Vishnu is always an Adishesha, right? So Lakshmana leaves. In the same way he took Sita out of the kingdom, he followed the same route. But halfway he stopped. He says, no, I cannot do this. I cannot live without my brother Rama. I cannot live without seeing my brothers Bharata, Shatrugna. He says, I can't do this. And he walks into the river Sarayu, ending his life. He walks into the river, and of course, he submerges into it. News reaches Rama. Of course, Rama cannot bear it. He says, what? Lakshmana has gone. Oh my God. Again, he goes into this, I can't take this. I can't take this. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, things doesn't change. He cannot take it anymore. So what he does is he calls Lava and Kusa, divides the kingdom into crowns. Lava is one and Kusa is another king, and says, you rule. Then he calls Hanuman and says, it's time for me to go. You stay, you protect all my people, all my devotees at all times, without any exception. This is a Deva Vakya. And this is what Hanuman is doing until today, right? And then Rama says, I'm going. When Bharata and Shatrugna hear that Rama is going, they drop everything and they follow him. Don't forget who they are, right? Lakshmana is Adishesha, I told you. Sita is Mahalakshmi. Bharata and Shatrugna are Shankhi and Chakra. Of course, have you ever seen Mahavishnu without these 2 things? No, right? So when Rama, Bharata and Shatrugna at the river Sarayu, they rush to Rama and said, no, you're not going alone, we will go. When the 3 of them walk inside, Adishesha is there inside. Because of course, the moment Lakshmana goes in, he automatically becomes what he is, right? What is never changes, right? And of course, Mahalakshmi is there waiting. Of course, Ram becomes Mahavishnu. Bharata, Shatrugna becomes Shankha and Chakra, right? And they go back to Vaikunda. And then, of course, the Uttara Kanda ends with the renunciation of this worldly life by Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna. Of course, Sita is the first. She's the last to come, first to go, right? In the lineage of all those who came as part and parcel of this plot, great plot. But she's the first to go, then followed by all the others, right? The rishis are still around. Agastya is around, right? Valmiki is one of the Sapta rishis. He's there. Hanuman, of course, is there, right? Nala and Nila, the stones that they implanted, they are still there. These are all still there. And then I told you, the remnants of what the West call Adam's Bridge or the Rama Setu Bridge, that is still there. Evidence is there, right? Unrefuted evidence by NASA. Because if you tell our people, this is from this great book of, this Ithihasa, This is from this Upanishad. No, I'm not interested. This is from NASA. Oh, really? Okay. Wow, fantastic. NASA? Yeah, very good. So I'm giving you NASA, right? NASA's confirmed that this thing is there. And I think last week I told you, or when I did Uttara Kanda, right? That's last week. I told you about the age of the rocks and the age of the sand, right? About the dates, scientifically researched. Right? So Uttara Kanda has the later editions has many consequences, both socially, both politically, and both for like a kingdom, right? And certainly, if you read the later versions, right, it is bound to inhabit your own culture, your own thinking, as you tread, through your day-to-day lifestyle, right? It supports, it substantiates the enormous changes that has occurred, with Hinduism, with also history of India, what it was, what it became, what it is, So the writings has gone through all these periods. So you must understand the changes that those writings themselves have endured, and therefore they are presented and represented and again represented in a totally different way. So you got to read it with a bit of open-mindedness, with a bit of intellect, right? Particularly with regards to the last kanta, right, Uttara Kanda, because that is the only thing that changes. Several versions out there, right? Remember, take the lesson that it has offered us and forget about the variations in the story. Take the main lesson, right? Don't get swayed in the juiciness of the different varieties or versions that you read, right? It's nothing but a mere reflection of the historic moments that Ramayana has passed. So I hope I have concisely and precisely conveyed the message that you should all take from this great epic or Ithihasa. Hence, I decided to call it the essence of Ramayana. The essence. Even if you put one drop, it flavors or it refreshes or it gives a different fragrance to it. So once again, I stress, don't follow the story, but take the lesson or the principles enunciated throughout as conveyed in each kanda and apply that to your present life. That is the practicality of enduring or experiencing transformation, personal transformation, self-transformation. Right? There's no point just hearing the story and say, it's just another story, another one bites the dust, finish. No. Right? So it just remains for me to congratulate all of you, right, who loyally followed me over the last 8 weeks, right? And you have verily received the essence of Ramayana just sitting in the comfort of your own homes or your own surroundings. Truly, you're all gifted in that respect. So next week, I am going to review, I'm going to consolidate, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to raise questions with regards to the kantas, or with regards to some doubts if you have, or if you seek some clarification. But, don't ask me basic or mundane things, right? Some things that can spiritually change your approach, your understanding, your persona, your practices, your habits. Those things I'm happy to discuss. But don't ask me how old was Rama when he died, did Bharata have children, how many children? All that is totally valueless as far as the information is concerned, right? Now, if you have any questions in advance, you can email them to region3uk@gmail.com, right? Region3uk is one word, right? All small cases, region, REGION, 3uk@gmail.com. And then, those questions will be forwarded to me, and then I can at least think about the best way to answer them. I'm not saying I know all the answers, but with him behind me, I can be pointed to them. I can be guided to those answers, right? Don't ask how. I don't ask how, but it comes when you seek. So I hope to see all of you, if not most of you, next week, for the final review, consolidation, and question and answers. Until then, stay blessed. And if you have any questions for me at this stage,